Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. Welcome. Today, something arrived in the mail. Oh, it's a white box. And what exactly is in the box? Well, this is my 6502 ROMulator. This is the device that's going to help me hopefully diagnose and get my Commodore PETs working. This is the kit form of this, so I will have to build it, and I'll show you what's in here. We'll open this box up and then start building it, but before we do that, and before we get working on those Commodore PETs, I have to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can have PCBs printed starting at only $5 for 10 boards. The 6502 ROMulator is a great example of the type of project that PCBWay can help you with. They can make your PCBs for you starting at only $5 for 10 boards, and they can make them fast as 24 hours plus shipping time. So whether you want some test boards to see how everything works or are ready for the final PCB to be made, PCBWay can help you. So visit www.pcbway.com today. And here is the box. Opened up. It's nicely taped in there so that nothing can move around. So this is from BitFixer. So let's get it out of the box. So the first one here is the connector board for the hooking this up to a Raspberry Pi so that you can actually get information off of the ROMulator, and you can also reprogram it. So that will be something I will put together later. All right, so here are all of the parts of the ROMulator that will have to be put together. Now, there is an excellent video on BitFixer's website that shows you how to do this. Speaking of that, let's take a look at that website where you can order this from. If you want to get a hold of your own 6502 ROMulator kit, they can be found at www.bitfixer.com. There is, of course, a link in the description. Other things you can order to go with this include the Raspberry Pi connector and the standalone programming and debugging interface. The price is very reasonable and comes with everything you need to get started fixing your machines. However, if you want to make this yourself, it is an open source project and the GitHub page contains everything you need. This includes the default switch settings for the ROMulator if you ordered it from BitFixer. As you can see, it comes with 16 pre-programmed settings. The majority of these are for the Commodore PET, which is perfect for what I need right now. There's also settings for the Apple II Plus and the VIC-20. For now, I have no need to reprogram this because everything I currently need is on the ROMulator. One of the most useful things of this is that in the future, if I need it for another system, I can reprogram it to work on it, as long as it's a 6502 based system. Now, let's build my 6502 ROMulator. So here we go with the parts for putting all of this together. Now, as I pointed out, there's a really good video about how to put this together, so I'm just going to quickly reiterate the things that he says in that video. The thing that he did not cover in the video is that the FPGA board here does not come with any of its pins or anything on it, so we do have to do that as well. All right, so The first thing is cut one of these down to the right size. And of course you want to make sure you're putting these on the bottom of the board. So the top of the board will be the part that has the ROMulator 6502 1.06 and all that on the front here. So and a good way to test to see that these are actually in there straight is just see if they line up with the socket, which it does. Alright, I've taken a look at all of the solder on there and it looks not too bad. So now it's time to put the socket on. And of course there's a notch in the socket, notches on the silk screen here, so make sure you line those up, because if you put your 6502 in backwards, that probably will not be good. So that has been started. Now, one of the important things, of course, is make sure that you put the socket on after you've put the pins on the bottom, because if you don't do it in that order, you'll have a lot of trouble soldering to that line of pins in there. As a matter of fact, some of them you won't even be able to access. So let's get back to soldering. Alright, the socket's on, the pins are on, so the next thing to go on is the dip switches. And on the dip switches, it looks like from his video, the on faces towards this 6502 socket. And there we go. Dip switches are on, that's on. Next is these guys. Ooh, very tight. There we go. These will be the connectors that this board will plug into. Do one leg from each, and then see if they are straight to the board. Again, another good way of being able to test whether they are actually straight or not. Let's take a socket. As you can see, the socket fits in perfectly. So this should be nice and straight. All right, there we go. So that is the board assembled. 6502 goes in there. FPGA board will go on here. Now, you'll notice that there is a second socket here, and it says, please leave socket on, larger pins can damage CPU sockets. So, he's provided you with a second socket that you must attach to the bottom here because of the bigger pins that are there. I just happen to have this Commodore 64 board here, so I'm going to stick this socket into that socket. There. Now it'll go into a socket much easier without damaging the socket you're putting it in. Now, as I had mentioned, the FPGA board that I received, because this is of course a kit, it is not assembled yet, and that was not shown in his video on how to assemble everything. So again, you have to cut it down to size. Two blobs of solder on here. Yeah. Now, make sure that they are, and they are. So we'll just add a little more weight. I'm going to leave it in there to So now you've got the legs on the FPGA board. So you've got one little thing left over. It should be 10 pins, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Got to cut that in half at 5. And these go in right here. This is where you would connect up this to plug it into a Raspberry Pi, and he's also got another thing that you can use this for that plugs directly in here for reprogramming the chip and everything. If you don't have a Raspberry Pi. So again, we'll just do one, and then we'll look at the board as well, since we have this handy. Check and see. So that does fit. Good. Let's finish this off. All right, there we go. So then, how does this fit on this board? Just 1 second, I will find out. And looking at his video, it looks as if this goes on this way. So you can see the 5 volt is right there. So it'll be right, the 5 volt will be on the corner where the dip switches are. All right, so here's what you came to see. Here is the ROMulator hooked up to the Commodore PET that I've been working on. Now, one problem that I did have when I was working on this before, that TV up there, it's dead. I actually hooked a game up to it the other day, and it was doing the same thing that was happening when I was trying to run this through there. So that TV is completely dead. It's going to the recycling soon. So I am using the little monitor here. And we're still getting kind of a bad picture, but you can see some blinking on there. Now, there's one of two things going on here. Either this board is still not working properly, or I'm really bad at reading instructions and I'm really dumb, because this little card here from Rudy's Retro Intel, it is actually supposed to be used with more of a computer monitor. He suggests the Commodore monitor. And right now, I don't have a working Commodore monitor. As a matter of fact, I don't have any Commodore monitors. I don't actually have very many monitors per se for using computers, but I can see on the screen here that it does show what looks to be some writing, and something's blinking right there. So let's see if adjusting does anything. Can we clear that up just a little? Oh, makes it worse. All right, well, that's not going to actually work. So this monitor either doesn't work with this, or the board's still not working. All right, I'm going to try one more thing here. I have a Mac Mini hooked up in the back. I've got my cheap composite capture hooked up and running through that. So let's see if I can get anything up onto the screen here. Okay, it looks pretty much the same. Let's fiddle with that a little bit. Ooh. Okay, after some fiddling, that's about the best that I can get it. But that is the screen that we want to be seeing. I guess I can actually freeze this and let you see what it looks like. So as you can see, with the ROMulator, this is working. Unfortunately, I have to figure out a solution for actually getting an output here, or maybe I should just fix up that monitor that's on the Commodore and see what we can do from there, because this is just a little bit outside of the ability for my capture card, or there might be something wrong with the board still. I'm just not sure. And here you may recognize is my VIC-20, the one that I was using to test chips with. And this is stock right now, other than the 6502 ROMulator. Just to show you, no cartridge in there. It is just the stock computer. So normally I would use my Penultimate Plus cartridge in there to try and bring the size of the memory up, but right now it's running off the ROMulator, and we turn it on. 28,159 bytes free. So the ROMulator right now is giving it the extra memory. So then you're free to put any cartridges or anything else you want into here. That was just one little example of something you can do with this. And just to show that there was absolutely no trickery involved there, I have replaced the ROMulator with just the 6502 chip. And we turn it on. 3,583 bytes free. So As you can see, this was a completely stock VIC-20. The only thing, as I said, was the ROMulator in there. This weekend, May the 4th and 5th, 2024, I will be in Chicago for the 32nd annual Last Cocoa Fest. So if you're in the area, drop by the show and say hi. I'll also be at the BoatFest Retro Computer Expo on June 14th and 16th, 2024 in Hurricane, West Virginia. Other than me, do you know what else these shows have in common? My channel sponsor, Retro Rewind, will also be at both shows, so drop by their table at either show and pick up something for your Commodore or color computer. You can even bring a computer with you if there's something you need them to fix or install. If you miss them at the shows, you can still visit their website at www.retrorewind.ca and use my discount code of CRT10 to save 10% at checkout. Alright, there we go. The 6502 ROMulator has been purchased. It has been delivered and it has been built. And I am now one step closer to getting this Commodore PET working. As you saw, it was actually giving me the proper screen, albeit a little bit not working properly because I don't have the proper monitor for using that extension board. So I guess the next thing I have to do is either find a proper monitor to work with that, or I could try and get the CRT in that thing working. That will involve me taking the CRT board out and just going over it with a fine-tooth comb, probably changing all the capacitors, and yeah, going from there. I am fairly unfamiliar with working on CRTs, so this is going to be a learning experience for me. But yeah, that 6502 ROMulator, you saw it working with the VIC-20, and you saw what it did for this computer. I think it is a great value, and this is just the stock stuff I've been playing with it with. So there's so many more things I'll be able to do with it in the future when I play with it more. But yeah, it's not just for one computer, it's for any 6502 system. That is the really wonderful thing about it. All right, yeah. So that is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget that a like, a subscribe, and a comment below are all things that help the channel out a lot and are greatly appreciated. Don't forget that if you're in the Chicago area next weekend, that is May the 4th, 2024, I will be at Cocoa Fest, so drop by my table and say hi. So hopefully I will see you there. If not, have a great day.